Hi guys, I'm sorry I have to be gone again. This time Connor's sick, so I'm going to do what we've been doing lately with recording the lesson. So if you'll take out your notes and get those started, please. We're going to do 5.3b. We're going to talk about composition of functions. Yesterday we saw things like this, where you had f of 3. And when we had that f of 3, what did we do with that 3? Well, we took out the x's and we plugged 3 in instead. So today we're going to do things like this, okay? Or this is called f of g of x, okay? You can either write it like this or like that, okay? It's called a composition of functions. What it means is I'm taking this g of x, just like if it were a 3, and I'm going to plug it in to f, okay? Same idea as if I have this, g of f of x. This time I'm starting with the g function, and wherever I see an x, I'm plugging in f of x, the f function. So I'm starting with one function, and I'm plugging in a whole nother function anywhere I see an x. F of g of x or g of f of x. Okay, for example, here's example number 1. And it says that f of x is x squared, and g of x is x plus 3. And they're asking us to find f of g of x. So if they ask us to find f of g of x, what function are we starting with? Well, we're starting with the f function. The f function is x squared. But wherever we see an x, wherever we see an x, what are we going to plug in? Well, we're going to plug in this whole g function. So if I start with the f function, that's x squared. But instead of an x, we're going to plug in the g function. So I'm going to plug in an x plus 3. So I'm trying to do this by hand. I look like a 3-year-old writing. Okay, so I get x plus 3 squared. Now remember, I cannot just take that little square and distribute it, because there's a plus or minus sign in between. I cannot just take that little square and distribute it. X plus 3 squared really means x plus 3 times x plus 3. And I have to FOIL. X times x is x squared. X times 3 is 3x. 3 times x is 3x. And 3 times 3 is 9. When I combine like terms, I can take these two x's and put them together. Your final answer then should be x squared plus 6x plus 9. Okay, you've just done f of g of x. Okay, so for this next one, this one is asking us to find g of f of x. So now which function are we starting with? Well, this time we're starting with the g function. The g function was x plus 3, right? But wherever we see an x, what are we going to plug in? Well, we're going to plug in instead the f function. Well, what was the f function? The f function was x squared. So instead of an x, I'm going to actually plug in an x squared. No, Connor. So I end up getting x squared plus 3. Can I simplify that any farther? No, no like terms. So that would be my final answer, x squared plus 3. All right, we got one more. This last one says f of g, but this time, instead of f of g of x, we're going to do f of g of 4. So we first have to do our composition. We have to do our f of g first, and then when we get a final answer, what are we going to do with that 4? Yeah, we're going to plug it into x. So didn't we already do f of g before, back in our other examples? We did it in part A, right? And so what did we get for our final answer? X squared plus 6x plus 9? So we did our f of g, x squared plus 6x plus 9. And now that we have that final answer, we're going to plug in a 4 wherever we see an x. I'm going to plug in a 4 here, so I have a 4 squared. I'm going to plug in a 4 here, so I have a 4 times 6 plus 9. 4 squared is 16. 6 times 4 is 24 plus 9. What's 16 plus 24? That's 30, 40 plus 9 more. You should end up with 49. Okay. F of g of x, you're going to start with f and plug in g. G of f of x, you're going to start with g and plug in f. Let's try some. I'd like you to try these two, please. Here's try it number 1, A and B. Okay, can you see that? Try it number 1, A and B. Okay. All right, the first one says f of g of 2. F of g of 2. So you should first be doing f of g. Starting with which function? F. And instead of the x's, you're going to plug in the whole g function. Okay. So if I have my f function, I have 4 times x. But instead of x, I'm going to plug in the whole g function, which is x squared plus 5. Don't forget about that minus 1 in the back from your f function. Okay? How can we simplify this? Well, it looks like we can take this 4 and distribute it. So 4 times x squared is 4x squared. My goodness, now what's going on? 4x squared plus 20 minus 1. So you end up getting 4x squared. When I combine those like terms, the 20 minus 1 is a positive 19. So is that your final answer, 4x squared plus 19? No, because what do I still have to do with this too? I still have to plug it in. Will you plug it in for me, please, and get me a final answer? If I plug in a 2, I have 4 times 2 squared plus 19. 2 squared is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 plus 19 is what? 20, 35? You should get 35 for your final answer. Okay. I'll give you a second to do try it number 1b. This is g of f of x. Oh, Connor. So this time, what function are you starting with? G. Remember, where you see an x, you're going to plug in the f function. So I started with an x squared, but instead of an x, what do you have to plug in? The g function? No, f function, right? F function. So the f function was 4x minus 1. Okay, so what does that 4x minus 1 squared mean? Can I distribute the 2? No. 4x minus 1 squared means I have to do 4x minus 1 times 4x minus 1. I've got to FOIL it out. The 4x times 4x is a 16x squared. 4x times negative 1 is a negative 4x. Negative 1 times 4x is a negative 4x. And a negative 1 times a negative 1 is a positive 1. Don't forget about the plus 5 in the very back. I know, buddy. All right, combine like terms. I have a 16x squared. A 4x minus a 4x is a negative 8x. There's Connor for you. He's trying to do math with us. Oh, bud. 8x. We can't touch it. No, 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 no. There. You want to touch it? There. There's Connor's math. Oh, buddy. Yeah. Almost done. Whew. Okay. 16x squared minus 8x plus 6 should be your final answer. We don't have to plug in any values because they're asking us just to do g of f of x. Because there's an x there, we're not going to plug in any numbers. So your final answer is 16x squared minus 8x plus 6. All right. That's our lesson for today. Your homework is the 5.3b worksheet. You should also have your homework from yesterday. I'll be collecting both of those when I come back tomorrow. Behave yourselves. I'll see you tomorrow.